Hey everyone, it's Editing Nikki here. So, when I was editing the intro and outro of this episode, I realized that my mic was off. So now I have to re record these, and I thought, you know what, let me turn my camera on and show y'all what the behind the scenes looks like. So, I'm wearing my Barbie crew neck, and yeah, I have no makeup on. So, anyway, still look cute. So, anyway, this episode is one of my favorites that I've done so far. It's super fun. Basically, I'm joined by Cami Sophia, and we're talking about how to be a bitch. So, it's really about setting your boundaries, standing on business, and building a good foundation for honestly like the only relationship that you're guaranteed to have for the rest of your life, which is the relationship that you have with yourself. So if that one's janky, all your other relationships are going to be janky too. So I hope you enjoy this and have as good of a time listening to it as I did participating in it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Baddest Bitch in the Building. I am your host, Nikki. I am the baddest bitch in the building, not to be confused with you, who's also the baddest bitch in the building, and not to be confused with Cami. So Cami Sophia is with us today. If you're not familiar with her, she is a content creator. She's a wellness and Pilates girly who you may have seen on TikTok or on Instagram. And she's also the host of a podcast called With Intention that you might have listened to already. So Cami, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Do you want to give a little intro about who you are?
So I feel like you kind of covered it. I'm absolutely obsessed with wellness, Pilates, all things girl talk, and just kind of everything you can do to become the best version of yourself. I post a lot of content around confidence and finding confidence through movement and looking after your body. Just because I do genuinely think that the main way to feel your best is to treat your body with kindness and love, and it will shine through.
I love that. And your content, at least for me, is so like peaceful, like listening to your podcast and like hearing the way you speak and like
Thank
just
you.
your voice is so soothing. So I love it.
Thank you. I will take that.
Well, today I want to talk about something that is something that Cami and I have both sort of bonded over, which is I think one of the best books out there. It's called Why Men Love Bitches. If you've listened to any of my episodes previously, you've probably heard me refer to this book. Cami has also talked about it. So I thought today would be a really good opportunity to talk about how to be a bitch. And, and not in the conventional sense of the word of someone who is mean, or I feel like this word has so many meanings. Like you don't even know what you're getting into when you say bitch. I mean, it's in the title of this podcast too. But what I mean by a bitch and what is defined by the author of this book, which I have with me if y'all are listening to the video version of this podcast, is I'm going to read the definition. Okay. A bitch is a woman who won't bang her head against the wall obsessing over someone else's opinion, be it a man or anyone else in her life. She understands that if someone does not approve of her, it's just one person's opinion, therefore it is of no real importance. She doesn't try to live up to anyone else's standards, only her own. And because of this, she relates to a man very differently. So there's nothing in that definition about being mean or putting people down or any of that. It's basically just somebody who stands their own, knows her standards, knows her values, and won't waver if they become compromised. She stands on business. Okay. And the opposite of a bitch is the nice girl or the doormat. And the definition of that is the woman who will overcompensate, giving everything to a man she barely knows without him having to invest much in the relationship. She's the woman who gives blindly because she wants so much for her attentions to be reciprocated. She's the woman who goes along with what she thinks her man will like or want because she wants to keep the relationship at all costs. And every woman at some point has been there. And I feel like we can kind of think of the doormat or the nice girl as a quote unquote pick me, but also just somebody who doesn't hold themselves up to a high enough standard and then lets people sort of determine what their standards are. And like a doormat, let people walk all over them. So now that we have the technical terms out of the way, Cami, I would love to just hear about, do you consider yourself a bitch or a nice girl?
To be honest, I think I've always been a bitch. Only because I don't know if it's because I'm an older sister. I'm not sure if that's why, or I feel like both of my parents are also very confident people. So I definitely think that it's rubbed off on me. But I do think that just part of being a bitch is being confident and knowing what you bring to the table. And it's definitely something I've had to learn over time. And I'm sure there's definitely been situations where I've probably been a doormat as well. I think to say you have to be one or the other is probably incorrect. I feel like we've definitely been both. I think to actually be the bitch, you have to have been the doormat at one point to understand the value of being a bitch and the value of being confident. Like I talk a lot about it with my friends when, maybe they're dating someone new. Honestly, I will always relate back to this book because you've got to show up as a high value woman and you have got to teach them how to treat you. If you are showing them that they can treat you, you know, not as well as you would like because your standards are lower than they should be, then you're more likely to get used or treated as the doormat rather than the dream girl or the bitch.
Totally. And I feel like people just take your lead on the way you treat yourself. Like they use your standards, your self respect as sort of like the indicator of how they can treat you. So if you treat yourself badly and you let people treat you badly, then they're going to be like, okay, like she
Mhm.
doesn't really care and they're going to treat you as such. So if you don't treat yourself well, people are not going to, like, you can't expect people to treat you well either.
Yes, it reminds me of this thing I heard. I'm probably going to say it completely incorrectly, but it was like, you love yourself and he loves you more. You love him and he will love himself more. So when you're in a relationship, if you are, watering your own grass and you're growing this beautiful garden in front of you for yourself and working on yourself and, your business and your goals, that is going to make him appreciate you more and see you as a more high value woman. Whereas if you are not working on yourself at all, and you're using your time proving yourself, or maybe you have boundaries and you're letting them down for him, that is, making him think he's on the pedestal and that he loves himself more rather than seeing you as a high value thing in his life, which is so interesting.
Yeah, this actually reminds me, I saw this analogy the other day that said, life is a mountain. Women are born at the top of the mountain and men are born in the valleys around the mountain. And so, like, a woman's job is, or like femininity is protecting your worth versus masculinity is climbing the mountain and proving your worth. And so I just feel like we all need to understand that we're born up there. We're born at the top. We have inherent worth. And our job is to just preserve it, convince ourselves, first of all, like the first person who needs to like be convinced that you have worth is you. And then that sort of, once you have that confidence and that kind of radiates outwards, other people will be convinced too. It's not like you have to do anything to prove anything to anyone, whereas a doormat would have to. She doesn't even understand that she has worth to begin with, and so she's just
Mm-hmm.
jumping through hoops to prove to people that she has worth, but at the same time she's kind of demeaning herself because like she's not standing on business and she's not upholding her values. So I think everything you're saying is so spot on.
Yeah, it is crazy though. I feel like it's so easy to sit and say you should be the bitch, but I think when you, especially in a relationship, when you've got those rose tinted glasses on, you
Mm-hmm.
are blind. Like, I remember it was me and my ex, and he loved drugs and all of that. And I was like, right, well, I absolutely hated it. And I completely let my boundaries down because I had those rose tinted glasses on. So I think that for me was when I was the doormat. And then when I left that relationship, I then started to become the bitch and I was like, okay, right, I am never sacrificing my boundaries to someone else ever again. And that was kind of when, for me, I was like, okay, I do have this. I do have, I'm at the top of the mountain. I deserve to be here. I'm going to stay here. And I think as well, part of the Why Men Love Bitches book, I recommend it to all of my friends who are single and maybe wanting to get into a relationship. But I recommend to everyone, but that would be like the prime time for you to read it. Um, just to kind of understand that someone who is worth it will not ask you to sacrifice your boundaries. Someone who is worth it will not put you down to put themselves higher. And I think as well, this book kind of teaches you about the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and how, you know, someone that's right for you will allow you to be in your feminine energy. You won't have to fight to get there. And I think part of being masculine is allowing you to be feminine.
And part of like femininity is being vulnerable and being able to rely on somebody who's masculine to let you sort of fall back on them when you need that, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that. And I really agree with reading this when you're single because I mean, I'm single. I've read this book multiple times. And I feel like when you're single, like you said, you don't have those like rose colored glasses on. And so you know exactly what you want because it
Yeah.
hasn't been tainted by somebody else's presence, or not tainted, but you know what I mean, like you're like, okay, this I want A, B, C, and D, and then somebody comes along and they have like C and D and not A and B, and you're like, oh, okay, I can compromise on this. But
Yeah.
it's because you're in that situation now, you know.
Yeah. When I finished reading the book for the first time when I was single, which was about almost 4 years ago now that I actually read it for the first time. And I actually read the book and then I wrote my ideal man list. And I actually don't hear enough people talking about this, but I am convinced that I manifested my boyfriend, who I've been with for 3.5 years now. And the reason I think this is because I broke up with my ex boyfriend and I said, right, I'm going to write down the qualities I want in my next boyfriend. And unless he ticks at least 8 out of 10, I'm not even going to respond. Like, I'm not going to respond. We're not going on a date. Like, this is not happening. And I set that standard for myself. So I had this list on my phone. I had these 10 qualities I wanted. And I actually met my boyfriend in the club. And I got my phone out and I went through the list of what I was like, so what do you tick then? Okay, let's go through.
It's
And I went
love.
through and he ticked every single one. And I was like convinced that I manifested him. But I think the point of it is making that list is like, okay, you're making it when you don't have any interest in anyone. So this list is actually what you want rather than shaping it to fit someone that you want, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. I'm gonna do that after this
Honestly,
episode.
manifestation at its finest. I don't even think I realized how powerful it would be, but like genuinely, I think within, I want to say like a month of writing the list, I met my boyfriend.
That's crazy. I feel like there's so much power in writing things down and like you actually like put it out into the world. Like it's one thing to have it in your head, but to like make it like physical, I feel
Yes,
like gives it a whole other meaning.
100%. And you have to
Yeah.
sit and you actually have to, properly think about what you want. And I do think, well, it's the same as, when you're writing your goals down for the new year, you're writing some things down because you feel like you should write them down rather than because you actually want to do them.
Cami, you touched on this earlier, but I want to sort of pull that thread a little bit more.
Mhm.
What is something you did as a nice girl that you look back at now and you cringe?
Completely sacrificed all my boundaries to keep a guy in my life. I just I would never ever do that again. I don't know if I've just become more not cutthroat, but a bit more like black and white where I'm like, okay, if you don't see my value, you don't want to sit at my table, I will eat by myself. Like I would rather eat by myself than be with someone that doesn't see my value or that I'm sacrificing myself for. I have a friend who is a prime example of doing this right now, and it's really, really difficult to see. And I actually recommended the book to her, and she said that she had stopped reading when she read the doormat qualities because she realized it was her and she didn't want to carry on reading, which was really, really difficult. But I think for me, there's definitely been times where I've just completely negotiated my boundaries that I'd kind of always thought were stuck. So
Mm.
I don't know. I think, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've all been there. I've been there too. I was in a 5.5 year relationship and I was the biggest doormat, like literally a welcome mat in front of your house. Like that was me. Like, it was no, and I look back at that whole thing and I cringe too. And I think every woman, like in the definition that the book said, like every woman has been there. Every woman has been a
Mhm.
doormat at some point. Because I think we're told by culture, by society, by just people around us that like as a woman you have to take care of people. You have to make sure
Mhm.
that everyone is happy. You have to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And like that, men are not told the same thing. And I feel like men by default a lot of the time are bitches or whatever the male equivalent
Mhm.
of a bitch is because they just don't have the same pressures. And so a lot of it is unlearning just the garbage that we've been taught and internalized throughout our lives.
It's so interesting that you say that actually, because I was talking to my friend about this a couple of weeks ago, and she'd said that she actually found this study that looked at men and women and their brains, and we actually both have the same amount of receptors for empathy, but they were given different scenarios, and women's empathy, like the signals in their brain, lit up way more than men's. And it's so interesting because even though we have the exact same amount of receptors in our brain, women have been conditioned for them to light up far more and to, care about other people and make it their responsibility to make things better. And that's so down to conditioning. So it is so interesting that you say that about how men are just always bitches, whereas girls have to train themselves up to be the bitch.
Yeah, that's actually okay. Now it's interesting that you said that because I was actually having a conversation with a neuroscientist for an episode that's going to be released before this one. So check that out if you guys are interested in that. But she was telling me how I asked her if there's like a feminine superpower that women have. And she told me that the same thing about women being better able to empathize with
Mm-hmm.
people. Like that is sort of if there is like a feminine superpower, it's that empathy, but I feel like it's a double-edged sword because then you can also sort of empathize too far if that makes sense and
Oh my goodness.
internalize,
Yeah.
it's so it can go both ways, but I feel like if we're like at least self-aware enough to know about that, then we can sort of use it in its appropriate sort of capacity and then also just draw a line and be like, okay, you know what, this is now it's going to cross my boundaries. It's time to be a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard though to actually work out where that line is, I think, because, you know, as you said, we are trained to want to help people and to solve people's problems in that way. And it's really hard to kind of understand the line of, okay, what is crossing my boundary? What is sacrificing my mental health to help someone else? And it's about working out that balance and that safe point where you're not sacrificing yourself to help other people as well.
What would you say, Cami, if that nice girl version of you, what do you think nice girl version of Cami needed the most when she was sacrificing her boundaries and herself?
A friend like me to tell her to cut the crap.
Yeah.
I always say, whenever my friends are telling me their problems, I say to them, okay, I'm like, do you want advice or do you want me to just listen? Because I think sometimes there is an issue there with just giving unsolicited, what is wrong with you all the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I wish I had someone to actually pull me up on my crap and be like, okay, if this was your sister coming to you saying this, what would your advice be? Because it probably wouldn't be what you're doing, you know? So kind of evaluating it and kind of stepping out of the scenario you're in and trying to look from an outsider's perspective of things, I think is the advice I would give. Um, or to just, find a time machine, backtrack as much as you can, and start
Yeah.
again with the bad bitch mindset. But yeah, I think the best advice I would give myself when I was in my, doormat phases to try and actually just follow the advice you would give your friend. Because whenever we're in situations where, maybe our boyfriends cheated on us, they're not treating us nicely, but maybe we have that fear of being alone or, not I don't know, not being in a relationship, that can be scary as well. Um, but I think take yourself out of the situation and just follow the advice that you would give someone else, because 9 times out of 10, you know what you have to do. It's just normally the thing that you have to do is the hard option.
I feel like a lot of it is, or a lot of being a bitch is being okay with your own presence and being
Yes.
happy being by yourself, not being afraid to be alone. And it takes a certain amount of self love to be able to do that. Like, not everybody is comfortable with their own presence, but I feel like you are the only friend that is guaranteed that you are guaranteed to have for the rest of your life. Like, the only
100.
relationship that you're going to have until the day you die is the relationship you have with yourself. So you need to be not just like comfortable with that, but you need to like really enjoy that and love that presence and just love yourself, because
100%.
you're going to be stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. So you might as well like
Yeah.
yourself.
Exactly. And I also do think I did a whole episode on my podcast called Alone But Not Lonely, because, spending time alone and being in your own presence and enjoying it is one of the most important things you can possibly have. And even if you are in a relationship, like I do long distance, and I think this really taught me to, you have to enjoy your own company because you don't have a boyfriend to see every weekend. And for me, it actually significantly improved my life, improved my relationship when I could spend time by myself. Because, you know, when you love yourself so much that there are no holes left to fill, you fill all the gaps that you have. Then when people come into your life, it's not for external validation or because you're scared to be alone. It's because they actually make you happy or you actually enjoy their company. Because it's such a key part to life to be able to go for a coffee by yourself or go for dinner by yourself, or chill in your room by yourself without sitting on your phone as well. Because I think there's a misconception where you're spending time by yourself but you're on your phone. You're not spending time by yourself because you're distracted. You know. So yeah, I think it's so important to spend time by yourself. And if you're thinking you can only do that because you're single, it's just not the case. When you are in a relationship and you spend time by yourself and you enjoy time by yourself, that is one of the most powerful things you can possibly have and do.
I agree. And I feel like a lot of being a bitch and having people respect you, especially somebody you're in a relationship with, is not feeling needy. Because when that person feels like you need them, whether
Mhm.
it's need their presence, need them financially, need them for whatever reason, like if you give them a reason to believe that you need them rather than you want them, that opens the door for you being manipulated, you being taken for granted. And it's just an open invitation for that person to walk all over you and then
Mhm.
for you to be a doormat. So it all just goes down to your relationship with yourself. And something that popped in my head when you mentioned long distance, I don't need this is not even related, but do you think looking for somebody on a dating app is the way to go, or is real life just the best route?
I think in an ideal world, you would meet people in real life. But I think it can be hard. Not people don't go out as much, and people aren't as social as much either. Like I went over to my boyfriend and asked for his number. Like that is how I met him, by making the first move. Whereas I feel like that is not a common thing at all. And people are shy, people are scared of rejection. So they're not necessarily going to make that move. Whereas I feel like on a dating app, it's so much easier to get rejected because you don't really know it's happening. Like they'll just swipe left on you instead of right, or whichever way. But I don't know. I think it completely depends on the situation, but my advice would be, if you didn't want to do the dating apps but you don't really know where to start, would be to go to the gym or go to clubs, or like there's run clubs where you can wear a certain color to say if you're in a relationship, a situationship, or if you're single. Like there are so many good ways to meet people in person. I think I just think the intentions on the dating apps are probably all a bit blurred. I don't know. I think it depends what point you are in your dating journey, I would say. If you're wanting some, then, go for it. But I think if you're looking for like a long-term serious relationship, I think your best bet would be going somewhere where you have common interests, because I think dating apps is purely based on attraction as well, and attraction will only get you so far.
I feel like the first thing that you judge somebody by is their photos. And I
Hmm.
understand that because we all are visual creatures. We want to, our brains are hardwired to trust appearances. So if somebody is like butt ugly, then you're probably going to swipe left. But that person, that ugly guy, if you saw him in real life, you may have given him a chance. Maybe you saw him at the gym and you're like, okay, this guy's really strong, or this guy just has a good energy about him.
Hmm.
But you can't see that in a dating app. Like, I mean, if you can tell, like, I'm not on any apps. But I just, to me, it just seems like you're flipping through a catalog of people,
Yes.
and it's just like
It's like,
dehumanizing.
you're not from the UK, but if anyone's listening from the UK, it's like when your mum brings back like an Argos catalogue and you've got your little felt tip and you're circling all the things that you want. It's like the grown-up version of that, but for men.
But you literally, for humans, it's like,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I just think you're way more likely, and as well, with dating apps, you're not immediately meeting. Like, I don't know if it's just me because I feel like I'm probably coming across really biased for a relationship, but I think, you're messaging for ages. Like, what's your favorite color? What's your star sign? Like, it just doesn't. And then you meet each other in person, you're meant to have these conversations again. Like, I would rather someone like, obviously Instagram is pretty similar. Like, someone sees your Instagram, they go, oh, she's nice, okay, let's drop her a message, see if she's free. Like, I would much rather someone DM me and say, I've seen that you have dogs, do you want to go for a dog walk at some point? Lovely, let's go, rather than the whole messaging thing, and then it's probably going to fizzle out of the messaging, and if you haven't got a date booked in, it makes it awkward. I don't know, it's just, I much prefer organic meetings. Is That's my final final statement.
oh, I agree. I feel like this is just the way it's been for millennia. And
Yeah.
yeah, I saw a TikTok that said Gen Z is like completely rejecting dating apps and just opting for meeting people organically. And I'm like, when I eventually want to go find somebody, I'm just going to go outside. Like, I'm just going
Yeah.
to leave my house. It's for women, it's easy. Just be pretty, you know?
Have like confidence about you. No, but it's so true. I do think like it's the same as when you're making friends. Compliment a girl. Say to a guy, "Why you smell really nice? What is that you're wearing?" Or "I really like your style. Like you've got a really cool outfit." Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't need to be hard. And I think as well something that maybe people shy away from, but you can make the first move. Like as a girl, the baddest bitch move you can do is make a first move. And I promise you now, guys love it when a girl makes, you know, their first move. And I think as well, from you automatically making the first move, you are showing you are confident. You're showing you know what you want. You're showing that you have your set of rules, you have your boundaries, and you're going through it anyway. I think just from off the bat, showing your value is a really, really good. And I think hitting on a guy or, saying something nice or complimenting them, that is bad bitch energy, in my opinion. Like that shows you are confident.
That shows like from the beginning that you are the bitch. You are
Yeah.
the baddest bitch. You're not the doormat, and you like sort of bring that energy there. But then I also think it's important to like, maybe I'm traditional, I don't know, but because I've done this, I've like made the first move, and then after that, everything goes on the guy. Like the chase is his.
Oh,
He's
100%.
the one who does everything else. He's the one who leads, but I was the one who initiated, or dropped
Yeah.
little breadcrumbs for him to pick up. But then everything else is in his domain. So I feel like the
Yeah.
gender roles go back to, guy leads.
100%. But then they say that in the Why Men Love Bitches book, men are built to like the chase. Whereas if you give it all to him on a platter, he is not going to appreciate it. Okay. Like, even 3.5 years later, I am still letting him chase. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if I'm like, one key point would be, even if I'm not busy, a couple of times a week, I'll drop a message and be like, I'm really, really busy. I'll message you in a few hours. And it's just a thing of your time is valuable. You are a busy girl. You are, including him in your life when you can, but you don't need him in your life. So you're kind of portraying that your time is valuable. Because I think there's something in the book, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was talking about how a guy will ask you on a date and you're immediately like, yeah, I'm free whenever. No, you're not free whenever. You'll say, okay, when are you thinking? Yeah, I might be able to move some things around. I'll let you know. And then you let him know. Even if you're completely free, your time is valuable. He needs to see your time is valuable. So you can say, I have a few things on, but I'll see what I can do. And then you can go out and say yes.
Yeah. And the book, I think she mentions you're available 2/3 of the time that he wants
Yes.
to see you,
Yes.
because you need to give the illusion. Or you can just be busy also. Like that's also a thing. Like just
Yeah.
fill your time up like with hobbies and work.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like that also goes back to that analogy I mentioned earlier of like men having to like climb the mountain because they take pride in things that they had to work for. If you're handing yourself to him on a platter, he did not have to work for you. So what pride is there in that, you know? So you're like a prized possession. He had to chase you and work for you to get you. So, and he can lose you at any moment. That's the whole premise of the book, is
Yes.
you can be gone in a heartbeat, and that's what keeps him on his toes. This is a good point. I want to sort of pivot because I
Okay.
picked out a few quotes in the book that I just want to get your thoughts on. So I'm just going to read some quotes and then I just want to get your reaction to it or whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay. So, number one, most women are starving to receive something from a man that they need to give to themselves.
Yes. Yes. I think that's one of the quotes I have highlighted in the book because it's so true. And I think it actually relates to another book that I read by Florence Pugh, Women Don't Owe You Pretty. And she basically talks about how we deserve the cake, but we accept the crumbs. Basically saying that, we deserve the absolute world and we accept the bare minimum as if it is the absolute world.
Hmm. I
So
love
it's so
that.
interesting. But yeah, no, that I love that one. That is so true.
Yeah, and that been there, done that. Next quote, act like a prize and you'll turn him into a believer.
100%. 100%. But then, that comes across as from, the get go, you are showing you're a high value woman. Like for me, I feel like when I got out that list and I said you have like let's go through them. Having that list allows you to have your boundaries, know what you deserve, and you're not accepting anything less than what you deserve. You are not negotiating here. This is what you want, this is what you deserve, and this is what you are going to have.
Totally. I actually have an episode called I have my little girly laws of power, and one of the laws is act like a queen to be treated like one. I feel like you can, just by the way you act, you can gaslight people into thinking you are a certain person, but you have to believe it yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well, it's fake
100%.
it until you make it, I think, with confidence. Like, you know, at least 50% of the time, I'm not feeling like my most confident self. However, best believe I will be rocking up. I will be dressing like my most confident self. I will be speaking like her. And, people are going to think I am her because act like a queen, you are a queen.
Exactly. You're going to think you are one too, and that's the most important person, right?
Exactly.
All right. Quote number 3. This is my favorite quote like of all time.
Okay.
Men control the world, but women control the men.
Yes, I totally agree with this. I actually have spoken to my boyfriend about this before because he thinks he wears the pants. I said to him, you only think you wear the pants because I allow you to think you wear the pants. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it might actually just be me, but I plant a little seed. Like, if I say I wanted to go shopping and he doesn't want to go shopping, I'll then be like, oh, you're running low on your aftershave. And he goes, oh, yeah, we should probably do that. Oh, where? Yeah. And he was like, oh, actually, should we go to the shops? Yeah, sure. Why not? You're planting that seed. He thinks it's his idea, and then he's all happy because he's come up with this idea. You're happy because you've got your way. You got the original idea. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, you can allow him. Like he wears the trousers, but only because you actually zip them up for him.
I love that. Oh my God. This actually reminds me of, first of all, that makes all the sense in the world. Like, that's exactly what I have done
Yeah, just plant the
so many
seed.
times. Yeah, I actually did an episode about me plugging all my episodes now. I did
Okay.
an episode. I did an episode about this not too long ago about using the power of suggestion, which is you don't outright ask for anything. You just plant the seed and he fills in the gaps and then he thinks it's his idea and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so smart. I'm so oh my
He feels
God."
happy because he's made you
Yeah.
happy, you know? I think I actually saw this thing earlier and it was like when a man loves you or, wants to have something with you, he is going to go out of his way naturally to want to make you happy, to want to do things that you enjoy. Like that is going to be his natural thing to go for. So when you aren't accepting or when they're not doing that, you need to have a question because naturally they want to make you happy. They want to do what they can to see you smile and be happy. So, power of suggestion. And if you're suggesting something as little as, oh, aren't flowers so lovely? It's so lovely when there are fresh flowers in the kitchen. It's just lovely. And he doesn't get you flowers, step back, babe. Step back. Because, he should want to do that anyway, if that's
A
what
guy
we're.
will do anything for his dream girl. Like he
Yeah,
would. So,
exactly.
and there's no
Absolutely.
meeting halfway, in my opinion. Like you don't. Maybe it's like meeting like 9/10 of the way, as in he comes 9/10 and you come 1/10. But there's no meeting halfway because he wouldn't let you meet him halfway if you're really his dream girl, in my opinion, at
Can
least.
you elaborate on that?
I just feel like if a guy knows, and she talks about this in the book, if you are his dream girl, he
Mm-hmm.
will literally do anything for you. Like you don't have
Oh,
to make a lot of compromises. You don't have to, you know, sort of haggle and negotiate. Like if he wants to do something for you because he believes like it is the right thing to do and you are his dream girl and he wants to impress you and keep you, he will do it.
100%. But do you not think that comes down to as well, like just the masculine values or like the traditional masculine values of, you know, looking after and protecting and keeping your woman safe? I think there was a quote I saw that I spoke about before on the podcast, and it was like all love should feel easy, happy, secure, and safe. And I think that is literally down to when you are his dream girl and he respects you, there is no way he's not going to look after you and make you feel safe and make you feel happy. Like that is going to be his priority.
I totally agree. I love how we started with one quote and then we've brought like 12 different quotes into it.
I know, I love a good quote. I do love a good
Me
quote.
too. Me too. Oh my God. So, speaking of quotes, another one is agree with everything, explain nothing, then do what's best for you.
Oh, wait, can you repeat that?
Agree with everything, explain nothing, then do what's best for you. This is in the chapter where she talks about acting like a dumb fox.
Okay. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I feel like I did not actually keep that one in my brain.
It's a really good chapter. Basically
Yeah,
talks about like acting dumb and like letting on that you know less than you actually do. Because again, I feel like that goes back to the suggestion and sort of making him feel like he wears the pants while you're zipping them up because you
yeah,
want to make things feel like it's his idea because he's more likely to do those things for you again.
100%. And do you not also think that comes in with the confidence though of not needing the validation for him to know that you know? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you're more
yeah.
than happy to sit quietly because you know your value. You don't need anyone else to know your value for it to be true.
100%. You don't need validation. Like the only
Yeah,
validation you need is from yourself. And so if you want to act dumb because it's going to help you get what you want, then that's what you're going to do.
absolutely.
Cool. Okay, last quote. Anytime a woman competes with another woman, she demeans herself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I think, firstly, women should not be competing, especially not for a guy. I think, like, it's with, like the Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter thing. Like, they're constantly pinned against each other. It's like Hailey Bieber and Selena Gomez constantly pinned against each other for what? Like, for a man? No, absolutely not. I think there is so much power in women coming together, and if a man is making you feel like you're just an option, you're not his sole choice and priority, bin it off. off you go.
Yeah.
Cami left the chat. Sorry.
I love that. I feel like it's the system too. Like the patriarchy wants women to compete against other women because I feel like that's what makes us, if we're at the top of the mountain, that's what makes us fall off of the mountain. You know,
Yeah.
it's competing with other women. Competing is for the men. Men compete. Women
I also
complement.
do think that there is enough space. There is enough space for everyone. I think a lot of people, I feel like you'll probably be the same. A lot of questions I get asked is, you know, is it I want to start social media, but there's no point because I missed the 2020 TikTok viral phase. I wasn't even doing social media then, but now I do it, which I completely had that mindset as well. I was like, I can't start social media because I didn't start in 2020 when everyone was doing TikTok in lockdown. But there is enough space for everyone to be successful in everything. And yeah, pinning each other against each other is not good. Like, you're going to get way more out of your life if you are making friends, making contacts, and networking and being kind to other people rather than putting other people down. And I think if a girl in your life, or a woman in your life is, trying to put you down or has this internal competition with you, she is insecure, because you do not see a confident person putting someone else down. Like, they don't need to do that, whereas an insecure person will put someone else down to make themselves look better, because that's the only way they can do that.
All the people, all the women who have tried to put me down, who've treated me badly, are people who I look at them and I'm like, there's something missing in your life. Like there's something
Well,
broken. And I hope that you heal from that because I almost feel bad for them, you know?
yeah. Yes, there's a thing going around on TikTok right now, actually, and it says, "A girl that's mean to be is never a girl I'd actually trade lives with." So who cares?
No one who's been mean to me has been pretty, is all I'm going to say.
Oh,
So.
you were definitely raised with a mum that's like, they're just jealous of you. Don't
They
worry, sweetie,
are.
they're just jealous. That's why they're being mean.
Exactly. Which I believe. Honestly, at the end
I
of
100% believe, 100%.
So, Cami, I feel like this is a good point to ask, what is your patriarchy hack?
I actually wrote this down.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so my biggest tip for women navigating patriarchy is to take up space, and don't apologize for taking up the space, whether that's in your career, in your relationship, or literally just walking into a room. Own your presence. I think I actually saw a video on TikTok of how men sit and they like spread their legs. Like, I'm literally sat right now with my legs crossed over to take as little space up as possible, because we have literally been conditioned to shrink ourselves, to be agreeable, to not rock the boat, to just agree, because that's just the easiest thing to do. But confidence comes from knowing that your voice, your ideas, your ambitions, your goals are just as valid and just as powerful as someone else's. So I think my biggest tip would be to push, advocate for yourself, set your boundaries, and don't be afraid to disrupt the room that you are in. You, you know, I think the way you need to show up for yourself is your full self, your most authentic self, because that is what is going to change the game. You can be a sheep, but that's not going to get you anywhere. You need to bring fresh ideas and you need to be your most authentic self. And that is what will get you the furthest.
I'm so glad you said that. It's like rock the boat. Don't even be afraid to tip the boat over and just like take the life jacket and go. Like, if
Yes.
that's what you got to do. Manspread with your presence, basically, and like
Yes.
with your confidence. This was amazing, Cami. I feel like I could talk to you for like hours, and this has been so fun. um, I guess this is a good place to end off. Like, where can people find you? Do you have anything like fun and exciting coming up that you want to plug?
Oh gosh, okay. You can find me on Instagram at Cami Sophia. It's CamiSophia. And then if you type that in, I'll probably come up, but it's got like 4 or 5 A's at the end. Additionally, on TikTok and Instagram, and then you can find me on my podcast at With Intention. But yeah, keep an eye out for Pilates plans. I always release new Pilates workouts on YouTube and wellness girl tips on pretty much every single platform. But yeah, it's been amazing.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely.
All right, it's editing Miki again. And like I said, my mic was off when I recorded the outro to this. So here we are. But that was a lovely Cami Sophia. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And I hope I didn't sound too like, yeehaw. Every time I speak to somebody with a British accent, I always feel like I sound like a hillbilly, even though I know that's not true. So I didn't want to say that at the beginning of the episode because I'm like, if I say that, then you guys are going to think I sound like a hillbilly. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I will leave Cami's socials and all her links in the show notes if you want to check her out. And of course, if you want to support the show, you can drop a 5-star rating, like, subscribe, comment, blah, 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 whatever you want to do. And I will see y'all in the next episode. Just don't forget that you're the baddest bitch in any building you step foot in. All right, until next time, stay bad. Love you. Bye.